So we need them. What? Oh, they are right here. You want a red friend? I'm sorry I'm not communist enough for you. Literally red. How can I do that? I only have one skin. You're talking about a new car, aren't you? You want a new car friend? Okay, just so we're on the same page, do you want this new car friend to be the color red or from a communist country? Oh.
A Lada.
I bought a 1991 Lada 2107 and the Trabant is very happy about it. This video is sponsored by AG1. Hi, I'm a doctor. A medical doctor? No, Michael Doctor. It's my name. And I'm here to tell you that if you drink AG1 by Athletic Greens every day, you'll lose weight, gain muscle, get taller, be happier, find more success in your job, have less social anxiety, and anything else you wish. Or my name isn't Michael Doctor, MD. That's my initials. Obviously, none of that's true. AG1 is a nutritional drink.
I stink to high heaven. I don't know why, but it felt good. And I stink.
Probiotics, other things. This is good nutritional insurance. I've been drinking this every day, and it's nice to know that on the days that I eat like an emancipated toddler, I'm still getting my vitamins and minerals because I drank my AG1.
What the heck are they?
And it tastes good. This one is the color of pond scum. It doesn't taste like pond scum. It tastes legitimately good. And somehow, smells like bubble gum. AG1 can also help sustain energy, support your immunity, other things. Start your new year right. Head to athleticgreens.com.
I wish I could do that.
To get started on your first purchase.
I wish I had YouTube.
Then your supply of this stuff. Vitamin D3, K2, additional supplement for your drinks, as well as this lovely canister and 5 travel packs. Go to the link. Thanks to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this video. The story of Lada begins.
Ooh. Congratulations, Mox. Come. Get. Okay, I'm coming. Be right back, Millie. Okay, I'm coming. Be right back, Millie. After him. Please look. Please look after him. Of course, I. Ooh! So Moxie's mother was there? Hey guys, I'm on E621 and Moxie's mother was at the wedding. How's that possible? So Moxie's mother was actually at the wedding. Congratulations. Okay, I'm coming. I'll be right there. Be right back, Millie. Okay, sweetie. Please look after him. Of course I will, huh? Look, see? Look after him. Of course I... So, is Moxie's mother still living? Or was it a spirit of Moxie... Or was it Moxie's mother? Or was it the spirit of Moxie's mother? That could be the question. So that's a good question. Oh my lord. Like, they actually... Oh shit. Yeah, right. Luna would never work there. Luna would kill everyone before she worked. Oh my god. Their food is... that's just cool. That someone, whoever drew that, you got props, man, for doing that, because that's sweet and sad. Mostly sweet. So it's kind of like Allison from the new Witchcott movie. Wait, is that a human? You know what? Oh, that's sweet. I don't know if that's what I think it is. Oh, it is. Oh, it's like she's mother. Okay, Leno. Let me make sure. Mm. Lena, sweetie, you shouldn't buy plastic skeletons for Halloween. It's terrible for the environment. Say, Lena, sweetie, you shouldn't have bought a plastic skeleton for Halloween. It's terrible for the environment. And your son. Local scouts of all natural skeleton. Hey, local source of all natural skeletons are more environmentally friendly. Yeah, Fia? I would have bought a plastic skeleton anyways, cause your son will get sicker eating all the plastic. It's just sad though. Got like she's. Still though, I think that would be. I still think that'd be pretty cool. Still, that'd be pretty cool though if it was real, but yeah, that was pretty neat though what they showed.
1970 in Soviet-era Russia,
Hope they make
factory with the start
gas,
production of the
GAZ.
2101. They reworked for the Soviet Union Fiat 124, the car that itself had started production 4 years earlier in 1966. This is not a 2101. This model began production in 1980, and it is nothing like the 2101. In the same way, gasoline is nothing like petrol. This is the Vaz 2107, or Lada 2107, or Lada Riva, or in Canada, Dennis. Really, for a short time there was a Canadian importer that was calling these the Dennis Signet. And the Niva, that was the Dennis 4x4. Dennis. Anyway, mine, as I already said, is a 91, which means it was built in the Optovaz factory in what would only be the Soviet Union for a couple of months after this thing was built. After that, it was just warring with Russia again. But this model didn't outlive the Soviet Union by just a couple of months. Although its production moved factories several times, this model, as you see it here, remained in production until 2012. The last factory was in Egypt. Although that's an impressively long run, the Western world had lost interest long before this point. Lada officially pulled out of the UK, and from what I can tell, most Western countries, by 97. Even though it was one of the cheapest new cars available, a car in 97 with no airbags, ABS, fuel injection, power steering, style. Not all that appealing 3 years away from the new millennium, even if it did cost 5 pounds 3 ounces, or however British money works. Okay, so it's a little outdated, but that's just my definite Western point of view speaking. If you lived in Soviet-era Hungary, for example, this was one of, if not the nicest car you could own. Now, to you and me, this may not scream luxury car, but everything's relative. Let's compare this to another popular car from Soviet-era Hungary. The Trabant. Yes, these little sinkers were very popular in Soviet-era Hungary, as was the Polski Fiat, but I don't have one of those. I should get one. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm so focused on Hungary, that's where this and my Lada are from. In comparison to the Trabant, Rolls-Royce. The Trabant has 2 cylinders. This has 4. This engine is 2-stroke. 4-stroke. The oil stays in the engine. 2 doors.
Force was good.
4 doors. 2 seatbelts. For 4 seats. Really? 4 seatbelts. It's actually 5, I lied. 26 horsepower. 75 horsepower. I think. Thereabouts. These body panels are made of cotton. Eto zlani stali. Jada śmierci na twojej maszynie z parapojcznych sztanów. So sorry to everyone that speaks Russian.
Black smoke out of the exhaust of the Trabant. I mean, come on, the Trabant was pretty neat though. It was a car made of cotton, which is pretty neat.
Mini, an action-packed bite made for movie night. Life gets bueno.
You want a Trabant? I wouldn't mind having a Lada.
Really,
No smoke.
You can always sum it up by saying the Lada is a real car. This, as I already mentioned, is the Lada 2107, but there was also the Lada 2105. It followed pretty much the same production history as this car, but the differences between this and that are vast and comprehensive. The lovely people I bought this car from also had in their inventory a 94 2105, also in red. The 2107 has a big chrome grille. The 2105 does not. This car has a tachometer. The 2105 does not. This has headrests. The 2105 also has headrests. Yeah, they're the same car, but with slightly different interiors and a different grille. You can sort of think of this as the deluxe version, but that's a bit like calling your mac and cheese gourmet because you sprinkled parsley on it. These two examples even have the same engine and transmission. Although that 2105 had headlight wipers, mine doesn't, and that makes me sad. The engine I have is the Baz 2103, which is confusing because that's also the name of a whole car. Imagine if Toyota came out with a new sedan called the 2JZ. As so proudly displayed by this badge right here, the engine in this car is a 1.5 liter with a single-barrel carburetor, a manual choke, and a catalytic converter, which I'm sure works wonders paired with the carburetor. This engine makes 75 horsepower, I think. Again, because the engine has the same name as a whole car, difficult to nail down specific information. I've been led to believe by everyone that this engine and all of its relatives are basically bulletproof and last forever. However, everyone also says the Trabant could be fixed with 3 wrenches and a hammer. But the very first thing I tried to do to it required a specialty tool that was only made for the Trabant that I had to order from East Germany. So I don't believe everyone anymore. A 1.5 wasn't your only option though. You could also have a 1.2, a 1.3, a 1.6, a 1.7, or if you're the KGB, a 2-rotor Wankel engine with 140 horsepower. I didn't know that existed in a Lada before making this video. I want a Wankel Lada. It has a very conventional layout. Front engine, rear-wheel drive, live rear axle with a manual transmission. And a manual transmission was your only option, I think. I saw a dentist brochure that said automatic was available, so maybe not. You can have that manual as either a 4 or a 5-speed, and the 5-speed is definitely the one you want. As I said earlier, when I went to pick up this car, I had the choice between this or a nearly identical 2105. I picked this because this one has the 5-speed. As the seller told me, you definitely want that 5th gear if you're going to spend any time on the highway. And he was right. The only problem is, this isn't a 5-speed car, it's a 4-speed. The seller's gone through so many Ladas that he had this car confused with another Lada that he did have that actually had a 5-speed. And I wasn't paying enough attention to notice. When I got home and realized this gear shift can't count to 5, I told him, and he was so embarrassed and ashamed that he offered to import a 5-speed transmission for me at no cost. Although I turned him down because I didn't pay attention either and nobody was really at fault. We both just made a mistake. Now, would a 5th gear be nice? Yeah, I'm doing 110 kilometers an hour, so about 65 miles an hour, and I'm pulling 4,000 revs. And this is just what it's like on the highway. And to make matters worse, there's a little dot right there at about 108 kilometers an hour, indicating that I should shift into a 5th gear that I don't have. At least I assume that's a shift point. There's also dots all over the tachometer. And if those are shift points, why are there 6 of them past red line? There's even one up there past 8,000 RPM. What are these dots for? Yeah, initially I didn't care about the lack of a 5th gear, but it's pretty buzzy without it. Maybe I will ask that guy to import a 5-speed after all. As I understand it, the 2 transmissions are the same, have the same ratios, but the 5-speed has an extra gear on top. So what do you say? Would you like to see me 5-speed swap this Lada? Aside from Buzzy McBuzzerton up there, how does this thing drive? Well, Lada's logo is a sailboat, and that pretty well describes how this thing drives. I didn't time that very well. It's relatively soft and comfortable. You hear the bumps, but you don't feel them much. The steering is not rack and pinion, it's a steering box, so while I wouldn't say there's play in it as such, it's about as communicative as someone who is emotionally unavailable. The shifter is big, although not as bad as the shifter in a Yugo, which isn't saying much. Clutch, big. Brake pedal, more vague. The top 90% of the brake pedal does nothing, and the last 10% does everything at different rates every time. All this adds up to a car that is very difficult to drive smoothly and can in no way be considered sporty, although it's not really trying to be a sporty car. I will say this though, of my slow Civic cars, this is the least underpowered. There's a hill on this highway, and when I go up that hill, I don't slow down much. As with any older car, I'm never sure if these are characteristics of just my car or all Ladas. Maybe other Ladas have better brake pedal feel. Maybe they're all worse. Given the huge number of Ladas in semi-rural Missouri, I'll never know. But what I do know is this example I have here is in fantastic shape. But crucially, it's not so perfect that I'm afraid to use it, which would be silly for a Lada. For instance, it has been repainted or at least touch-up painted at some point in its past, and it has very little rust, but it's not completely rust-free, as I found out when I went to put this thing on my lift. One of the jack points completely crumbled. POR? Not structural. Someone has restored this engine bay. This is the most spotless engine bay of anything I own, and it's in a Lada. There's no leaks, there's no mechanical problems of any kind, except for this wheel bearing appears to be going out, and it runs a little bit on the rich side. That could probably be fixed with a little bit of carburetor tuning, but I'm not going to do that, because you know what you do with a carburetor that's not causing any major issues? You leave it alone. Welcome to the interior of the Lada, where there are 4 seats. I feel like I should point out these door cards because look at this material and then look at the material under the bonnet. Is this the same material just with more grease on it? Because it looks like it. Look at all the gauges I have. That's the other little issue with these cars. These small gauges, they're problematic. This econ gauge doesn't work. And first of all, if it did work, the color scheme doesn't make any sense. It goes from red to green to yellow. That's not the order I would expect those colors to go in. The coolant gauge either works or causes a panic attack. The fuel gauge likes to bounce. The voltage gauge, you know what, that seems to work, so that's good. Here's the center stack. The radio is obviously not factory, and I've disconnected it. Why would you listen to music when you have a buzzing 4-cylinder to listen to? There's a small row of buttons down here that do various things. Your shifter and the climate controls are pretty self-explanatory. There's definitely something wrong with my heater, maybe a duct not hooked up somewhere. And I say that because it's pathetic. It blows warm air out of the defroster vents, but no matter what I change, it blows cold air out of these vents that are blowing at my face. And I assume there's something wrong with it because I refuse to believe that a car made for Siberia has this pathetic of a heater. Here's the Lada steering wheel, the sailboat logo. The column stocks are exactly what you'll find in a Yugo because they're Fiat parts, although in here they're black instead of yellow-brown. And just like a Porsche, the key is on the left side of the steering column. Also, glove box. See the number etched on all the windows? That was the original number plate that was on the car. It was for anti-theft or whatever. Do you think that they etched it with the window rolled down to this level? Because if you roll it up, it's no longer at the same height as all the others. Welcome to the trunk of the Lada. It's quite roomy in here. Not comfortable, roomy. This trunk is also home to the spare tire and the toolkit. Now, I'm not going to make any wild claims about this car's ease of serviceability because I haven't done much to it yet, but I will point out one thing I noticed. The front ball joints are not pressed in. They're bolted in, which will make them much easier to service, which you'll inevitably have to do more often if you spend a lot of time on the poorly taken care of roads of Russia or Oklahoma. I'm sure you already realized this, but just in case you didn't, this is a very basic car. It doesn't have power locks, power steering, power windows, power mirrors. Power. It doesn't even have door detents. They just swing freely. In fact, this car is so basic. Here's a couple of features it has that legitimately impressed me. There's an indicator light on the dash to let you know when your choke is pulled out. I've never seen that before. Probably because everything else, especially by the 90s, either had an automatic choke or fuel injection, but that's helpful. And if you pull up on the parking brake, there isn't just a light. There's a light that comes on and then starts flashing, and it flashes silently. So you know what that means? There's a computer in here. One thing I've heard before about Ladas is, oh, they're built like tanks. No, I put this thing on my lift, jacked unevenly from all 4 corners, and the sheer stress of that was enough to warp the body so much, the doors got stuck. It's not a tank, it's a wet noodle. But you probably could have guessed that if you looked at the A-pillars, which are thinner than my wrist. I have a problem with the Lada. It's a car. My other weirdos, Robin, Trabant, Wego, when it worked, are so absurd they're hard to even classify as cars. This is definitely a car. It's not a very good one. The way it drives is sloppy. It's not particularly comfortable. It's loud, but it's also not hilariously bad. It's just bad in the normal way. That's my problem with this car. It's not bad enough to be entertaining, but it's also not good enough to be entertaining or to be a good, useful car. It's somewhere in between. The thing that makes this car interesting is just the fact that it's a Lada in America. And history doesn't make a car fun to drive. I don't know if I'm going to keep this car a super long time. I'm glad I bought it in the first place, and I'm glad I've had the time to experience it, but I don't know that it has a spot in my fleet for the long term. By the way, are you wondering how much I paid for this car? It's too much for a Lada. This is now the most expensive used car I've ever bought, and it's a Lada. $9,500. I think there's something wrong with me. And that's my Lada. What do you think? Should I keep it, maybe 5-speed swap it and see if my attitude changes, or just go ahead and sell it and...
Keep it. I would have kept the damn. I'd keep the damn thing and tell him, hey, you know what? A person told me you should just keep it because of one reason. It's different. I mean, one person named Tyler. Well, you to retire in this.
Let this be your lesson, Moxie. This is what happens when you cross me.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, happy we got a new episode of Hell of a Boss. This just wasn't the turn I was expecting for Moxie. Honestly, though, this is the best episode of the season for me. Like, no contest, it had laughs, horror, more horror, whatever the hell Chaz had going on. It was truly a step in the right direction, as it corrected one of my biggest issues with the series. No, it's not the Millie problem. Don't be delusional. But I'm gonna take what I can get. Let's talk about the mental nightmare that was this episode, and the even more terrifying knowledge that no matter how abusive they are, people are still gonna call these two daddy.
Why,
Are
man?
you fucking kidding me? There's someone who's both of you! Right, kicking off the episode's a fat joke. Because we really needed to keep bringing that up after the pilot, with Moxie bragging to himself about how he lost 2 pounds when no one can tell the difference. And thankfully, Millie storms in like a Texas twister, being pissed off after running into an ex. Now, I'm just gonna rip this right off. I love Millie in this episode. Her hitting Chaz is absolutely hilarious, cutting off all his nonsense before he can move that lying tongue of his. The Green Wedding Massacre was fan-fucking-tastic. But that said, she is still getting the shaft hard when it comes to characterization. Made a whole video about this, maybe you've seen it, but to paraphrase myself, Millie is the +1 to Moxie's character. There's a large gap in moments for her to be the focus of the story, especially when it's in a way that doesn't relate to Moxie, or doesn't involve an action set piece, which are all great. But in a show where the character writing shines the most, Millie being so action-centric is a detriment to her character, leaving her as the shallowest member of the main cast. Plus, everyone else has gotten an episode. Luna has gotten 2. But Millie is this show's blind spot, with this pattern unfortunately continuing here. She's a badass. We knew this. But outside the understandable hating of Chaz, Millie still needs more love. Like, we never even got her backstory for how she met this guy. Moxie would fold for anybody with a theater degree, but Millie feels like she would have way higher standards or less tolerance for someone so clearly high on their own BS. Was Millie different when she was younger? Does she just have a weakness for singers? I can't tell you because the story isn't giving me enough to make those guesses. Her fights are gore-tastic. She's Whittle John Wick. Yet her lack of spotlight is still annoying even when her use in the episode is great. It's a recurring problem that the series keeps doing, with the juiciest situation of Moxie and Millie having the same ex. Kinda just feels like it's there just for this one joke.
I'll show you all the things they liked in the sack.
Deal. The story needs the Moxie Chaz love story. You can cut out Chaz and Millie, and you would barely notice the difference. Millie is mercilessly protective of her man. It's cool how she was willing to kill Chaz for abandoning Moxie, but we're not really learning anything new about her, which at this point feels so very long overdue. Like the episode where we met her family was all about Moxie. The episode where we meet Moxie's family is all about Moxie. When is it gonna be her turn? I am still holding out hope for this Millie episode. I am starving for it. What I'm not starving for is more shitty dads.
Maybe like a shitty dad or a mob family. That's understandable. Now take care of the others.
God, that line is so good in hindsight. Almost as good as this one.
What you dreaming about? I was dreaming my parents were being murdered.
Yes, Moxie's father, Crimson, Mafia Don, wife killer, and interior decorator, hits up Blitz, dragging IMP down to Greed for a little business lunch. Don't let that distract you though, that Blitz has a horse shipping chart on the wall and is into furries. Or at least taking pictures of them. Like, we knew he had a thing for horses, but every episode is proving that, yeah, he is really into horses. Down in Greedo, past the reconstruction Lululand, all the way down to not a mafia town, Moxie is horrified to be reunited with his father. Now, Crimson hits that Stella territory for me where, yes, they are absolutely terrible people, but they are also so much fun to be around. Till shit gets real, but that we'll get into. Crim, though, is great as his abusive mafia father. But the fact that Richard Hortz is voicing both of them really kills it, giving the both of them very distinct, but also very similar voices. Crim, from the very beginning, you know he is going to be trouble. With Moxie barely being able to hide his panic at seeing his father again, letting us know that this man is a bastard. From getting a little too chummy with Millie, low-key bullying his son before hitting him, this man has a chokehold on Moxie's psyche, and it's all conveyed in little ways without immediately chucking the help at him. Like, I especially love this one moment.
What are we doing here, sir?
Now, Moxie calls Blitz Sir all the time. This is his quirk. He'll attempt to be professional while working at what's basically a circus. And you think that he's going for, you know, to ask Blitz what's going on. But then his eyes shift over to Crim, and we know right away who he thinks has authority in the room. It's not his dad or daddy, it's Sir, with him being barely able to look him in the eye when he asks the question, or look to the others for help. All that is conveyed in these brief moments, with Crim then ignoring his son's request for clarity, wondering what the hell is going on.